What's up everyone, welcome to today's video, welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. Today I have a small conversation about Gotham Knights and its universe being unlocked by its developers and its writers. Now it's worth mentioning that it's been confirmed James Gunn and the creative direction of Warner Brothers in terms of a lot of their IPs are going to be sharing a common canon from now henceforth. But it also needs to be put in perspective that a lot of different IPs that have already been in production would more than likely slip underneath the radar. Examples being maybe the Wonder Woman game, potentially Warner Bros. Montreal's next project, and even NetherRealm's video game project. These projects are likely going to be going their own direction because of the way game development works, and if they already had been greenlit before the new management decided to make this move in this direction, then you can be quite sure that they're more than likely going to release and then possibly have endings or cliffhangers that somewhat point to the new universe. Also, one thing about DC is it is one of those universes where they're not afraid to jump into multiverses and alternate universes in their entire storytelling. So for some who've already kind of seen or concluded that this new change is probably going to be very narrow, I would love for a lot of those people to maybe just go back and look at the plethora of a lot of the DC entertainment products that are out there that do follow different universes and in some sense don't destroy one another. And most DC fans are quite okay with it, especially in the animated series side of things. So I don't necessarily think that this is a big issue, nor is this going to be something that disrupts a lot of different video games. Now, when it comes to Gotham Knights' universe, it seems like it's a universe that is heavily tied very closely to the Justice League to some extent. Within the game, there are a lot of different pointers that show different Justice League members like Clark Kent, even Wonder Woman, and a whole bunch of others within the universe in a very interesting light. But it is worth mentioning that as their next game is being made, they probably need to go ahead and invest in this universe as much as possible in regard to the characters that they introduced. Now, even if the universe is not going to be a thing, even if, say, James Gunn comes in and says, man, what is this universe where we kill Batman? They can still go ahead and invest in the characters and still take them in the direction of what the story or plot points or overall canon is going to look like, but at least get these characters out there in a bigger capacity. Their start with Gotham Knights, to me, I think has been one of the better places to actually kick off something that stems from a more popular character into these other characters that don't seem to have as much popularity in the video games. And I'm going to be very clear and, very direct about that part. I'm not saying they're not popular. I'm not saying Robin and Batgirl and Red Hood are not popular. I'm just saying in the video game world, they haven't got the popularity of Batman. So the developers seem to have taken this step to bring them to the limelight, and I strongly believe they need to go ahead and take this same step and bring other characters into the limelight. Now, granted, Injustice did a very good job of highlighting a very robust roster from 2 video games. Injustice 1 was not that big, but Injustice 2 had a massive roster, and you got to see a huge number of Justice League heroes and villains and anti-heroes across the board. But being a fighting game, things just kind of stayed stale where they are. So I believe that if things go well, that the Gotham Knights game is just a precursor. Now, there'll probably be the other side of the conversation where some people say, well, who's to say that Warner Bros. Games Montreal is going to be making any of these other IPs? Ladies and gentlemen, in gaming today, the miracle is if your game even ships. A lot of games have gone down the development spiral, a lot have been canceled, and even from what we're seeing, a lot of the game development cycle got affected by what happened in 2020 with all the lockdowns. So a lot of businesses and a lot of corporations are recouping their money, and many of them, as much as they're trying their best, seem to have very short attention span, or at least short patience levels, and are not necessarily harnessing the best of what it is that they have to be able to bring out heavy-hitting video games. A lot of the quick money schemes seem to have really affected the Warner Brothers gaming side of things, with the leader of Warner Games and its 11 studios wanting to take its own gaming to a live service paradigm and not necessarily understanding the landscape as well as they should. I've seen a lot of different criticisms surrounding Gotham Knights where a lot of people have said, the developers had 4 years to make this game. They had 5 years to make this game, but very few of them really do understand how short of a time span 5 years is in a development cycle. And the evidence is actually there because many of these people compare Gotham Knights to, say, games like Red Dead Redemption, because a lot of these folk open their mouth and say things like, well, Red Dead Redemption did this, hence why did Gotham Knights not do this? But then when you slap them with the truth that Red Dead Redemption took about 8 years to develop, then they all draw back. Or say GTA 6 has been in development for only the Lord knows how long. And so when Rockstar drops these almost decade cooked games in the market and they start farming billions, everyone wants to somewhat compare these games to, say, other games across the board. Or even if you look at, say, some other titles, like, say, the Arkham titles. Arkham Knight was not an engineering piece that came out in like 4 years. It was a game that was as a result of the building blocks of other video games like Arkham Asylum, which was much smaller, and then moving up to Arkham City, and then Arkham Knight became the full-fledged work of the studio, having built different iterations of their vision over the course of time. And I think building is where Warner Brothers Games Montreal is right now, the beginning phases, and Gotham Knights was their first attempt, their first stab at making a video game independent of any other studio out there. And so I think if there's any team that can actually unlock this universe, for the most part, I think they have what it takes. Rocksteady, on the other hand, seems to have decided that they will go a different direction, sticking with the Arkhamverse. This is going to be interesting to see how their Suicide Squad game plays and leans into other aspects of the game. But I don't know if Suicide Squad is going to deliver what it is that a lot of players are looking forward to, especially the fact that the game is going to be a shooter for the most part. And this is where I'm not necessarily certain how a lot of DC fans are going to perceive this game when it finally drops. Now, someone like me, I played The Division for a number of years. I'll probably be the one yelling about how great the game is, while all the people that are excited about the game are going to be mad at me because they're probably not going to be too excited about the concept. Because from reading comments and studying the DC fan community in terms of the video games, I kind of understand the kind of games that this community actually loves and this community actually appreciates. And so seeing the contrast between, say, Suicide Squad and what it is that this community loves is where I'm scratching my head going, man, brace yourself for impact, because come maybe June 2023 or whenever it is Rocksteady's game is coming out, if they don't make major changes, I think this is going to be a very interesting thing to see, in this whole regard. Looking at NetherRealms, it appears that they are just going to stick with their fighting game ethos, which is what they're actually experts at, and Monolith is occupied with their Wonder Woman game. The next best studio that we can actually point to work on another DC game at the moment right now is Warner Brothers Games Montreal. They've already released Gotham Knights. Their second game is already at play, and so this is where the opportunity is for them to basically churn all of that and eventually start building and making sure that they took notes from this very first attempt. So I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. I don't want this to continue too long. I want you guys to give me some input as to what it is that you think overall surrounding unlocking more in terms of this particular universe and how that can flow under the radar of the overall vision of what James Gunn and David Zaslav have planned for the entire canon for the DC superheroes. Thanks so much for watching the video. I really appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.